Konosuba came out in the beginning of 2016 and everybody was so impressed by its first season. Fast forwarding to the present, and we were blessed with a movie about the Legend of Crimson, and it was in my opinion the funniest anime movie I've seen in a long time, and fans are desperate for more content regardless of its format because, well, it's Konosuba. This series is notorious for being one of the best and funniest isekai ever, but why is that? Unlike most isekai, Konosuba has taken a distinct path to differentiate itself from the hundreds of anime of the genre, and it has lived to everybody's expectations. Well, for mine at least. Some say that Konosuba was poorly conceived, lacking a lot of story quality, and all it had was quick-ass jokes and adding nothing new to the table. And yes, you're right, it didn't add anything that could revolutionize the genre. However, what it did was simply picking the isekai genre and its elements and ridicule it to the max, adding a lot of satire jokes about it and making it the most enjoyable isekai parody yet. Quite ironic if you think about it, no wonder it got chosen as the best isekai of the decade by Funimation. I wonder why. Comedy is the core aspect of this anime, and I understand that Konosuba's funny and satire jokes are not meant for everyone, especially if you are not into gaming that much, since there's a lot of RPG elements in this show. Many jokes are related and centered around this game's genre, but one can't deny the excellent execution of these jokes. One of the most fascinating characteristics about Konosuba is that there were zero boring moments. The first 5 minutes of the first season do seem quite cliché, serving as the introduction to the new adventure of two of the main characters. Kazuma, the neat youngster that dies while trying to save a girl and is transported to the quote-unquote purgatory, where he meets the goddess Aqua, in which gives him the choice of being reborn or live in a fantasy and yet dangerous world. However, in the midst of the encounter between these two characters, something is definitely off, as some unusual elements appear in front of us. A goddess eating Pringles while waiting for Kazuma's decision, Aqua explaining about Kazuma's death being somewhat unique, as you all may know, and how his family laughed so hard about it despite seeing one of their relatives passing away, making it clear from the very beginning that this anime would be all about comedy. And for me, this anime was entertaining from the beginning to the very end, making it clear it would be a memorable show. When it comes to the story, Konosuba's plot is quite simple. Kazuma and poor Aqua are transported to this fantasy world that needs to be saved from the Demon Lord. Along the way, they meet new people, including Darkness and Megumin, who both join Kazuma's party, and other side characters that have a certain degree of importance to the story. And again, I agree that it was one of the most cliché story premises you can find in an isekai, but it was meant to ridicule the genre. But I presume you got the point. Konosuba isn't about the story, but the journey of 4 very interesting and yet funny as hell characters. Honestly, I couldn't think of any cast as funny as these 4. Aqua, the previously goddess of water who used to guide people to the afterlife. She's this pretty and yet troublesome girl with a very carefree and energetic personality who unfortunately lacks the brains sometimes, making it clear she's one to be mocked for eternity by being the useless goddess and reincarnated as the useless meme. Ask Reddit, you'll know what I mean. Megumin, the quote-unquote best girl for many in the fandom. Don't ask me why. I think it has something to do with the obsession of her with some weird-ass liquids. She's an arch wizard of the Crimson Demon Clan. She has this loud, boisterous and eccentric personality and loves to give strange names to things, including the cat. I don't know, she's weird, okay? Her arrogance and yet prideful babbling about her destructive powers makes her quite the unique character for the anime series, as well as an intelligent element, if I could say, of again, to ridicule the overpowered characters of RPG isekai anime, because she can only use her abilities once per day, falling to the ground from exhaustion after using explosion. Darkness, the embodiment of sadomasochism. She's a crusader with wholesome beauty. At the beginning, she seemed to be another quote-unquote normal character. And yes, I say normal because out of the first 2 female characters, normal is something that is far from the truth for them. Darkness presents herself as a prideful crusader, ready to do her duty, as it is implied by her role of being a shield serving to protect others. She does, however, take a role a bit too literal. Mixed up with her pervert nature, Darkness is in reality a very funny character, since she has the urge to shield others thanks to her masochist and pervert personality. Enjoying every little moment of torture she may be target of, seeing for many as an act of heroism in the story, of course except for Kazuma, because he knew from the start what he was dealing with. Oh, speaking of Kazuma, he's the cynical, powerless and yet the smartest member of the group, the definition of normal character. Quite the opposite from your usual OP edgy character you may find in many isekai shows. Yeah, in the middle of the three complicated female characters, he's proven to be quite useful in critical times. As a self-confined person in his previous life, he sometimes struggles on a social level whenever he sees a beautiful girl, and yet at the same time he has some weird behaviors towards female characters, using his steal ability to steal female characters' underwear, or even taking advantage of one of his companions, as we saw in the Succubus episode. No wonder with such a weird and yet unique cast that makes this show so freaking entertaining to watch, because regardless of their unusual behaviors, the ability to have a chemistry between these four characters and their interactions to each situation they're in makes this show even more entertaining to watch. On top of that, we witness an art style and animation fitting the story's premise and characters being used to give that extra touch, enhancing the jokes and funny scenes. Some say this show is all about the memes, and that's what makes the story entertaining, but I believe that the love/hate relationship between them is what makes them unique, and for me, we have great characters on our hands, with distinct and strong personalities, and even with the introduction of new ones along the way, the scenes are nothing more than intensified by the quality of the cast, even from the voice actors who make a great job at filling their role pretty well, nailing every line with enthusiasm, making it clear we viewers were not the only ones having fun. Honestly, if a comedy anime makes its appearance, I have this tendency of being skeptical about it because I never know if the jokes will be cringy and lack any sense of flavor, but Konosuba managed to exceed all of my expectations, and I am not afraid to say that I have seen the show and the movies at least 10 times each, because it never gets old to me. I personally feel so attached to the characters and their small and yet incredibly funny adventures that I feel like I'm there with them, experiencing what they are feeling. And for this, I need to congratulate the author for being able to incite me as a viewer to glue myself to the cast and feel like I'm the fifth member of the group that goes on the adventure with Kazuma and the gang. And while many will disagree with me and still criticize Konosuba for being a simple satire and comedic show, I believe it's far from the truth, because this show is presented itself with a funny and yet simple plot, true, but with an amazing cast that is exposed to many different situations with a great sense of character progression, emphasizing on the relationship between them and the comedic and yet intelligent jokes about the genre and the RPG elements, making it not only for me but for many one of the funniest isekai anime ever. I mean, have you seen the amount of memes around them? Did you know how famous Megumi and Aqua are on the internet and the amount of sexual jokes they get just because we saw pantless Aqua right from the first episode and the slimy Megumin? Yeah, I thought so. In all seriousness, Konosuba was an amazing experience for me, and regardless of the amount of comedy anime I've seen in the past, presenting various elements that differ from Konosuba's, this show was so amazingly well conceived and funny from the beginning to the very end, and the only complaint I have about it is the lack of content we're missing right now, and I'll be here sitting and patiently waiting, just like Pablo Escobar did in the Narcos movie. Yeah, poor guy is still waiting, I would say. Well, that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and as per usual, don't forget to watch your daily dose of anime because it's good for your brain and heart. Take care, and I'll see y'all in the next video.